were standing up a congressman for an interview to get into the Naval Academy. I basically balked because I didn't want to be bossed around again like I had been in Pegasus. I was not treated kindly when I was on Pegasus. We were treated basically as young military personnel. And we were bossed around and told to do things and told to buck up and tolerate whatever they were asking us to do, just like we were, private first classes in the Army. Privates first class, I should say, in the Army. So we were yelled at a lot. I mean, in some instances, we had experiences that were tantamount to torture, or at least to averse treatment that was designed to either make us comply with authority or engage in military activities or espionage activities as part of the project. And then ultimately, in my case, to make me forget what I had done on Pegasus. So I wasn't really happy about how I had been treated as a child on the project. In fact, as I describe in the book, I had made several attempts to sabotage the project by, for example, leaving a note in the Baton Memorial building in New Mexico, in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and also by leaving a toy at the old school site in Lamy, New Mexico, where we were being tested after we teleported there. So, here it is. I'm 15, 16 years old. I've only been out of Pegasus for about 5 years, and my dad's telling me, look, you're going to the Naval Academy. Well, why was that? Well, I recall a conversation that took place between my father and the defense attaché for Project Pegasus, who was a young former congressman named Donald Rumsfeld. Don Rumsfeld would be destined to become defense secretary under Gerald Ford and under George W. Bush. But to me, he was just the guy from the Pentagon who was attached to Project Pegasus. And I remember one day we were sitting at a bar, and I was drinking a grape soda, which is what my dad would always order for me, or a Coke. And Rummy was having his martini, which was then his drink. I believe that he's a teetotaler today, but during those days he was still drinking. And Rummy was talking about how they had decided in the project that when the kids graduated from high school, they would be admitted to the Naval Academy, and that would be quote-unquote used as a pretext to involve them in future project activities. So my experiences in Pegasus connect to the whole notion of a secret space program or a secret Navy in space, because they were clearly intending by 1971-72 to send us to the Naval Academy when we were of age and train us and involve us in later time travel activities. So in any case, whatever my dad shared with Connie, it was disturbing. She seemed a little bit shocked. I think it was the information about me being the whistleblower on the project. And she let slip about the fact that she knew I was destined to find some very curious objects on Mars, and for that to be historically significant in some way. But, okay, so I have an ordinary adolescence there in Southern Cal. They put Courtney Hunt in my life in summer of 1981. Now, for many years, I had been blocked about everything that happened that summer in my interactions with Courtney. But what I now remember, and I now know, is that throughout the summer, he was asking me a question. When he was training me, different aspects of how the U.S. intelligence community operates, I mean, he was clearly grooming me for a career with the CIA. I don't want to mince words about that. That's what my interactions with him were about. And I didn't go on to a career in the CIA, but I was involved in some U.S. intelligence community activities in Los Angeles from roughly 1981 to 1986. So I did end up becoming implicated by them in their activities, but I was never hired by them. I never became a full field agent, if you will, but they did manipulate me into doing some things for them throughout the early 1980s. And those are largely irrelevant to the whole story of Pegasus and Mars. They were just pretty much conventional intelligence functions in Los Angeles when I was in college. But in any case, Hunt was essentially training me for the things I would do for the CIA from 1981 to 85. And they didn't involve domestic spying, by the way. I was just basically an errand doing different things in Los Angeles. They could trust me to be an errand because I had been a much higher level errand as a child, and they had sent me to the future to recover information. So they were happy to send me around Los Angeles to transmit information to people. But in any case, Hunt was working with me beginning in summer of 1981, and he was an exceptionally forbidding and cynical person. He was, like I said, the classic cigarette-smoking man from the CIA. He would grow moody sometimes. You'd ask him a question, and he would look at you like he was angry, and his eye would begin quivering. he was kind of like interacting with a pirate captain sometimes. He had a very brutal side to his personality where he didn't want to be intimidated and he didn't want sensitive information to be extracted out of him. He wanted to share enough information with me to train me. But the question he kept on asking me throughout the early summer of 1981 is, so do you want to go to Mars? Yes or no? And I was saying things to him like, oh, go to hell. I don't want to work for the government again. Or I was saying, I don't even believe you. I think you're on LSD or something. I don't even believe we're going on to Mars. Or I said one time to him, how am I going to go there? A spaceship? Spaceships, I don't want to get aboard a spaceship, no, and take off like a rocket. And he looked at me like I was crazy and said, you know how we get there. You did it right here on Earth. And of course he was referring to teleportation. So he was essentially pressuring me out throughout the summer of 1981 to agree to go up there. So I finally relented, mostly because, when your dad is an engineer for the Ralph M. Parsons Company who has spent a career basically as the $1 a year man on teleportation, and you were in a black project with him, the black project in which teleportation and other quantum access technologies were developed, and if you told your mother or your brothers and sisters or your best friend what you had done as a child, or who your dad really is, who he's really working for, and that now there's this CIA guy in your life, people simply don't believe you. In fact, I told everybody at the dinner table one time that I was under recruitment by CIA, and my dad made some dismissive comment, and everybody thought I was crazy. But Hunt was in my life. They already had a CIA agent in my life as a mentor. He was already training me by summer of 1981. But the difficult question he kept on asking me in the summer of 81 was, come on, I need an answer. Do you want to go to Mars? So I finally relented. In fact, he had me meet with a young person my age who had been up there, and after listening to that guy, he said, yeah, you just go into this elevator-like device, and it opens up on Mars, and you step out, and there you are. Okay, so I met with Hunt once, at which he explained how the teleportation to Mars was going to take place. And it's exactly how it did take place. It was very minimal training. You would think that we would go through 3 months of NASA-type, astronaut-type training to teleport to Mars. No, the CIA people like Courtney Hunt, and for that matter, even my father, who were consulting engineers to this teleportation capability that the U.S. intelligence community had, they gave me minimal training before going up there. And so let me describe what happened and when I did go up there. Hunt drove me in his automobile after briefing me at his home in Chatsworth. He lived in an apartment with his wife Linda in Chatsworth. We had a briefing session of an hour or two. It was a very basically brief session where he just told me what was going to happen. We drove to an office building in El Segundo, California, down where there are a cluster of buildings that are defense contractors. And there was one building that was entirely operated by the CIA. He drove me over there in his private automobile. We went up to about the 5th floor in the elevator. We stepped out, and the whole room was just one big counter. Like when you have a law firm and there's a Fijian suite in the middle, and you have a secretary who's working for all the different lawyers in separate rooms around this central console or counter. It was just a big console like that, big counter. And Hunt, the guy laughed that Courtney had shown up again. We walked over to the counter. He said, Andy's going up today, and he wrote my name in a ledger. And he said, okay, Andy, you want to go back and step into the elevator? And I said, I'm not going to Mars? And he said, no, you're going to Mars. And I said, in the elevator? And he said, yeah, that's the teleport. And they laughed kind of derisively. People in the CIA are very cynical, and they often spend a lot of time laughing at you even while they're training you.
Probably because they know, and they
right,
just
because,
they don't want.
Because they're insiders and they know things that ordinary people don't know, and they know how foolish almost everybody is ultimately. So he said, no, the elevator is the teleport. So I walked back into the elevator, and as he explained how the teleport would operate, the whole room would go there to Mars. So over the intercom, they said, are you ready, Andy? And I said, as ready as I'm going to be. I think I made a joke. I said something like,